Are like sitting around talking. We are now those old people sitting in the bar talking, right? Having pizza and getting caught up, right? We are now our parents, I guess. But it's funny how, we haven't played music together. Greg and I have done some things over the years when I've come through the area with little solo projects and stuff. And I've had Greg, join me on stage. But, to sit and actually get in the room and play the songs that we used to play as teenagers, it's so funny how when you get together again and you plug in and you start playing, you just remember it all comes back. Everybody's personality, the things they do well, and all their strengths and everything, they come back. And I will say this, the songs we're playing tonight, back in the day when we first started playing them, these were groups that were brand new. The early AC/DC stuff, Van Halen, Iron Maiden, these things. Now these are household names, and these are kind of like rock and roll bar standards, right? You go see bands play, everybody plays a lot of these kind of tunes. But at the time, they were like our bands. We'd go down to Lusk Music, which I think was where Cat's Hog Heaven is now, right? And we used to go there, and we would find these records by the Sex Pistols and Judas Priest and AC/DC, and we'd find these records, and I bought a lot of records just based on the album covers, because they looked cool, right? They just had these awesome freaking rock star photos on the front. I'm like, I want to do that because I want to be that. So I'd buy the record, I'd take it home, and it would just, again, it would become the fabric of who I became. And Justin used to come into our rehearsal studio. I shouldn't say it kind of was our studio, because it was a shed on our farm that my dad dedicated for us to rehearse in. And he put furnaces in there, and he helped us buy a trailer and a PA and all this stuff. And Justin would show up with like the early Def Leppard record, these early Scorpions records, and these things that were just, because Justin was 1 year older than us, so he was kind of like the big kid on campus. So he'd walk in with these records and literally changed our lives. And and really, I can't thank you enough, Justin. It's like just your musical taste put in motion things in my life that led me to. Yes, I agree. Let's thank Justin.
Can you talk about how we learned how to play?
And he gets to play on the pink drum kit tonight. So there you go. And by the way, Jeremy DeWall, thank you so much for everything, because he helped put all this together up on the deck here. He's got the stuff, so thank you for that. But these records, not only laid the crumbs for me to get to Los Angeles, but when I met Dave, who was really steeped in this kind of new wave of British heavy metal, this next level stuff, I had experience with it, and it really created this blank canvas for me to become a bass player, to become an artist, and to create a new path forward and to create a new sound and all this kind of stuff. So I think that is the beauty of coming back here to Jackson, Minnesota. I'm the kid that grew up on the farm, and for whatever reason, I was not destined to remain on the farm. Thank goodness my brother Elliot did. And God rest his soul, he ran the farm. We were kind of the prodigal son story out of the Bible. I ran off to Hollywood and did that, and he stayed here and tended to business here. And it's, through his passing, and even my mother and father, for me to be reconnected back, and to my nephews to be, taking stewards of the Ellison farm and keeping that here. You don't realize what we have. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona now. There's no cornfields out there. There's a lot of cactus and a lot of dry stuff out there. And as I talk to my friends back here, when you're sitting in these cornfields and you see it, it's a different way of life, right? That we all have had growing up here. And then when you leave it, like as I have, and traveled the world, a lot for the last 40 years, there's something really special, and it's a place. Some people want to forget where they came from. They want to forget their life that they had. And for me, I'm so thankful to all of you that you call me back here, because every time I come here, it just reminds me of how glad I am to be from here, and how glad that everything that I have and that I've been given in my life, from a Grammy and platinum records and all that kind of shiny, sparkly stuff in a music career, it started here. And I'm still alive, and I'm 57, and I'm healthy, and I'm clean, and I've had a good life and a good family, and I learned that here. That's where it all came from. So for me, thank you very much for bringing me back home. I appreciate it. And with that said, oh, there we have a question. Okay, yeah.
How did you learn how to play?
She's asking, how did I learn how to play? Great question.
Thank you.
Because my mother had the musical talent in our family, and she actually went to go see Elvis down at the Vets Auditorium in Des Moines because she went to nurses training. Well, she was from Spencer, so she had the musical fascination and talent. And in the 70s, like early 70s, my mom and dad bought a Wurlitzer organ, which is a kind of, in my opinion, not an awesome sounding instrument to learn how to play, right? And but it taught me. So I took lessons, and it had this cutting edge new technology called the cassette player, right? So cassettes were new, and they had the Jesus Christ Superstar cassette and songbook, which I thought was kind of. There's something about Jesus Christ Superstar. When I went to church, I heard one thing, and then I listened to that, and it kind of felt a little long, So which I think is what it was supposed to do. It was a rock opera. So I learned how to play on that, which, on the right hand is treble clef, left hand is bass clef, and then there's foot pedals. So I took lessons from, I think, Nora, is that her name? Nora Fryer, I believe, and Ethan might even be here. Forgive me, I think that was her name, right, Nora? And she was a church organist, I believe at Our Savior's. So I took lessons from her, and then from there I took up the tenor saxophone in the 5th grade band. Denny Shackle was our band teacher, and I only chose the saxophone because it looked cool. It was like the coolest looking instrument there, because I knew I wasn't going to be a jock, and I really didn't want to be a bookworm. So I was like, well, let me try the music thing, right? And that wasn't really my jam either. And then on the school bus radio, at Our Savior's Lutheran, we had Pastor Tangy. Does anybody remember Pastor Tangy? So his son Dwight was a long hair rocker dude, very cool guy. But he would always listen to WLS AM out of Chicago. And the AM station would reach over here. So on that station, they would play things like Styx, Bachman Turner Overdrive, Foreigner, like the cool hard rock, guitar-driven hard rock. Sweet had a big hit called Ballroom Blitz, Fox on the Run, this kind of stuff, right? So I'd hear this in the morning me and Elliot, my brother Elliot, we'd get picked up at 7:15, and we'd ride the bus for an hour into Jackson to go to school. So that's my musical education. And so from there, I saw pictures of guys playing the electric bass, and I thought, this is such a cool instrument. It's longer, the strings are fat. I didn't really even know what it sounded like, but it just looked awesome, right? So just like the saxophone, if it looks cool, it must be good, right? So I picked up a bass. I asked my mom. So out of the newspaper, we bought a Gibson bass from Fairmont, and we bought a little Fender amplifier from the Worthington Music, I think it was called, and that began my musical education. And so when I got the bass, that I wanted to play, and I wanted to play it to get good at it. But when I started seeing bands like Kiss and things like that, and even Bachman Turner Overdrive had a record called Not Fragile. And these records were so cool because they'd open up into like a gatefold, and there'd be like a band photo in there. And I knew I wanted to be a rock star. I didn't just want to be a musician, I want to be a rock star. Like that's like, if you're gonna go all the way to the top, like just go for it, right? And I think Kiss, probably for my generation, was the one that was the most, radical out of all of them. And so for me, I am definitely of the Kiss generation. They were my Beatles. People a couple years older than me looked at the Beatles as their heroes. Well, Kiss were my Beatles. And so that's where it started, and it hasn't stopped yet. So putting bands together and going out and playing, it's like I still do it. I'm just agreed to a record contract for a new band last month. We dropped just a couple weeks ago, we dropped a video for some guys, a death metal band that I started with some guys out of Poland. And we dropped it, we got an offer for a record deal, so we just negotiated it and it's done. So it's like, I still do this, right? At my age, this is just what I keep doing. So I have another album coming out with a wonderful singer who sings in the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, coming out in either late September, early October. We're gonna go to Italy, do some shows with that. And my friend Jeff Young, who was at Megadeth with me, we just announced this week that we're going to go out and play a couple of the early Megadeth records, stuff that hasn't been played in many, many years and may not get performed live by the band, by the group anymore. These things have very high vocal ranges. There's some limitations in some of that stuff. So Jeff and I got a couple of great drummer and a great singer to go out and play those things just to pay respect and celebrate the catalog, the pieces of the catalog that the fans have been wanting to hear. So, every day for me, it's kind of wake up and go, all right, what's next? And that is literally what drives me. It's all out of passion, and I just do it for the love of doing it, and hope that one day I don't have to get a real job. That's the goal, right? Let's face it, if you're a musician, right? All the musicians, right? All right, anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I've watched the videos many times, you playing
Also, I
with,
talked
with
about
the
that.
Big Four, everybody on stage jamming together.
Right.
You look like you were just having the best time of your life. Were you?
So he's seen all the videos and stuff like when we were playing with Metallica and Slayer and Anthrax called the Big Four. We were doing these big, jam sessions together in front of, 80, 100,000 people, these big festivals, right? And yes, I was having fun. Just like right now, I'm having fun. Talking about music, talking about all this stuff is the passion and joy of my life. It's not what I do, it's just who I am. And I think every one of us on those stages, when you see that, it's the same thing. It's not a job, it's not work, it's playing, right? We call it playing music. It's not working music. We don't go to work. Let's go play. And I think that really, if you've been given whatever your gift is that the good Lord gave us, right? Whether you fix plumbing, you raise cattle on a farm, whatever it is, hopefully it's something you do because you love doing it and it's a passion, right? The old saying that if you find something that you love, you'll never work a day in your life, that kind of thing. And I think with musicians, musicians come from a lot of different backgrounds, right? Some are just rebellious because they just feel rebellious. Some people just don't want to have to get a job, so they play music. Some people, do it for a number of, they're maybe avoidance, they're just avoiding life, if you will, right? And those things kind of don't always land well, not always, but sometimes they don't land well. And I think if you're in the industry, right, and you're really working and it's clicking and it's working, you're usually there, especially if you're going to go the distance, because it's really your God-given talent, and it's your gift, and it's where it's kind of where the Creator put you to be. So why shortchange the gift is my thought. Like really give it your all, and whether you're playing rock and roll or country music or jazz or pop or whatever it is you're doing. Even if you're not on the stage and you're writing songs for film and soundtrack and stuff like that, which is a wonderful career if you can get into doing that. Really just doing it because you're good at it and you're passionate, and the stuff kind of channels and comes to you out of thin air essentially, and it comes into your instrument and you create it. And I ask, people ask me, well, how do I get started? And it's like, I always tell people, it's like, man, just play as much as you can. Play with as many different people as you can. Just like you said, we had Headstone and the River City Band, and then Taz and Killers and Megadeth, and I had 15 other bands. So it's like I'm just always playing with people, because that always makes you a better musician when you can engage and play with other people. And if you have a group or something that you're doing and you're performing, and it doesn't have to be original music. I mean, playing like these tribute bands, you see, Hairball, I think, right, or out of Minneapolis. I mean, they're making an incredible living, right? And put on wigs and makeup and go out and kind of, have a good time being in the 80s again. Hey, if you can make a living doing that, go for it, A lot of those tribute bands and cover bands, they make more money than those of us who have signed record deals, and have all the obligations to recording companies. So, again, playing music because it's fun. If you can support yourself doing it, all the better.